live on Facebook. Let me introduce our speakers to the audience. We have Ms. Pauline Laravoire and Meghdoot RoyChowdhury. Together, they founded Y East, which is a platform which is essentially dedicated to social and environmental impact. Ms. Pauline is also the co-founder of EQWA, which is the Assessment for Quality Water Access, and it is a non-profit organization. She is also the sustainability director at Techno India Group, and she is very actively a social entrepreneur. Mr. Meghdoot is a startup mentor. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he's also a music producer. Currently, he's the director of global operations of Techno India Group. One fun fact about Sir is that he started BlooperHouse Studios, which is a music recording and video production studio, which he started when he was just 19. Sir and ma'am, a very, very warm welcome to both of you from Team EDC. We are very excited to have you, and we are eager to learn about your entrepreneurship journey. So let's get started. Could you please share with us your entrepreneurial journey down the line?
Sure. Go.
Oh, okay. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. We actually came to your campus last year as well, so it's a pleasure to be back through another medium, but yet back with all of you. So I only and sadly discovered entrepreneurship a bit late. I feel I think I was 20 or 21, and I had just entered HEC Paris, one of the top business schools in France and Europe. And this is where, because of studying business, this is where I got to understand and got to learn about the concept of entrepreneurship. And not only entrepreneurship, but specifically social entrepreneurship, which is when you have entrepreneurs that are setting up ventures, but instead of prioritizing the maximization of profits, they give the priority to the maximization of their social or environmental impact. And I was very, very attracted to that idea. And so from then onwards, I really was striving to work on my entrepreneurial skills on a daily basis, although it did not happen from one day to another that I created a venture. So it's just one of my messages tonight for sure. It's even if you don't create a venture, it doesn't prevent you from being an entrepreneur and from working out on your entrepreneurial skills. And so a couple of years later, with 3 friends, we decided to co-found a not-for-profit called Aqua. And through this, we developed a specialization and an expertise on social impact assessment, building all of the communications, contacts, projects on our own. That was really, really, really enriching. So I think I really believe in the learning by doing in terms of entrepreneurship. It's great to hear a lot of talks about what entrepreneurship is, but there's no better lesson than really taking initiatives yourself on a daily basis. And then after a master's degree in sustainability and social innovation, I moved to Kolkata. It was a couple of years ago, and I joined Techno India Group as sustainability director because I really I was really attracted to the education sector. And then I observed a few gaps in the sustainability sector, and this is what an entrepreneur would do. It would not start from nothing. It would start from observing a specific problem, a specific issue, a specific gap on the market with no existing solution. And the entrepreneur would try to bridge this gap. And so that's what we did with Meghdut when we co-founded Y East, is as an aggregating platform for actors of the sustainability sectors, by observing that there was no such existing platform in the eastern part of India, and by observing that most of the actors of this particular sector were really scattered and working well in their own corner, but there was no aggregating platform trying to bridge these miscommunications and this missed synergies. So we co-founded Y East a couple of years ago, and I've been mostly busy with Y East along with Techno India since then. Yeah.
Yeah. Funnily enough, yeah, it is my turn. But before I go, I was just checking the comments on the Facebook page. I just couldn't help it. And
I saw you smile, but I don't know.
The top 3 comments are "Gan Chunbo, Gan Chunbo, Gan Chunbo."
Oh my god!
Everyone's just. I think people just want to hear you sing more than talk. But a quick message for all of you saying "Gan Chunbo." For that, you'll have to call us to a cultural fest. Not going to happen at the Entrepreneurship Fest. Sorry.
Or we may, I don't know, write an entrepreneurship-related song at some point. I'm not sure.
I think it might be useful in a country where people are so obsessed with culture, especially in a state like
might
West
be
Bengal.
efficient. Yeah.
I think
we'll
to promote entrepreneurship, you write a song about entrepreneurship, and that's what helps bring more people from, like, more students into.
It's an interesting angle, actually.
I think that's the next trick. Maybe that's what.
There you go. Here's an idea on the table: how to boost entrepreneurship through art. You have 3 hours. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Hi, everyone. I think we've met before with most of you. If you were at NIT Durgapur last year, we had fairly large attendance at the e-talks as well. It was so much fun. I'm glad that we can do this again this year. My name is Meghdut, as some of you might know already, and I was born into a house of entrepreneurs. I think that's something that is to be taken into account.
From my background.
Very different from your background, because of course you come from France, where I think the idea of frugal innovation in general is a lot lower, and people just don't do stuff for the heck of it. I think in India we have a lot more of jugadus in general. It's from a very young age. People are more used to just going out and finding ways of doing things with the least amount of resources that they have. So I think that's always interesting. So because I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, I knew at some point I would always be an entrepreneur in whatever way. So I think my journey started, of course, with BlooperHouse when I was 19. And I just realized, I guess, that I wanted to do this full time. I wanted to, at some point later on, I realized I wanted to help other people do it as well. And I've, at this point, I think I've founded / co-founded 5, 6, 7 different ventures, most either in the education space or in the sustainability space with Pauline, and the entertainment space, a couple of ventures, including this live venue that we run called Top Cat in Calcutta. And one thing I think is common between all of the things I do in general is that I do all of those things with a lot of passion. And I don't think there's anything else that drives me.
I don't think you can be an entrepreneur very long if you don't have a passion on the project you've chosen to,
absolutely.
To work on.
And none of these projects, very honestly, were very well thought out, that, we're going to do it, let's make a business plan and we're going to create it and this is what we'll do. When the time was right, things just happened. And I'm not saying that all of the ventures that I've created or co-created have been successful, more unsuccessful than successful, I guess. But, we've set benchmarks in the way that we do things. And I think that is something that I'm very proud of. I'm very fortunate that I have teams. I've always had teams who are, as driven, sometimes more driven. You need your team to drive you. You need your team to pull you up. And in the lives of an entrepreneur, I think it's very important to note. People think that it's very flashy, and that it's a cakewalk. Every day you get so many people calling you, asking you to go talk at talks like this. But that's like 1% of the whole deal. Most of the days are filled with a lot of dread and anxiety. And especially if you're a serial entrepreneur, it's like, okay, I have 5, 6 different things going on, and something's going to go wrong in any of those on any given day. So basically, it's about like constantly losing sleep and waking up with like a little less hair the next day. So in some way,
it is not true.
Yeah, okay, maybe slightly.
There are other careers that are as stressful.
But entrepreneurship is particularly stressful as a career as well, because I guess you don't really have a boss as such for most of these things. You're taking a lot of decisions on the go. And
it's actually one thing that I wanted to insist on today. One of the main challenges I have been facing as an entrepreneur, for example, with Y East, is it's a little lonely sometimes at the top of your venture. You need to you sometimes do not have a very big team most of the time, and maybe there would be 2 or 3 of you, which is already great. Don't go, I would say, don't go completely by yourself on the adventure. It's always good to be accompanied by at least one other person.
A little bit of an Avengers assemble.
Yeah, but once you're going ahead with this particular adventure, you need to realize that you are the driver of the car. You take all of the decisions. No one is going to be there to tell you this is the right direction to take, or no, turn right, this is the wrong direction that you were about to take. So it's a lot of responsibility. It can feel lonely sometimes. It can feel a bit destabilizing.
Yeah.
But surround yourself with a good support system, and then I'm sure you make it.
And I also think it's not just about the responsibility. I think it's a lot of accountability that you take on yourself as well, because if things don't go right, then it's on you. That's the same way that if things don't, if things go well, then a lot of the accolade is on you, and if things don't go right, a lot of the hatred is on you as well. So I guess it's fine. It happens. But in terms of my journey, I guess, yeah, as I said before, entertainment's been something that's interested me a lot. Education, of course, being the very pillar of everything I do. And even the work that I do at Techno India, I think is very entrepreneurship related, because it's a lot of like promoting entrepreneurship among students, amongst faculties, running faculty development programs. In fact, one of the other speakers that was there at NIT, I don't know if Ravi is watching right now, but Ravi Ranjan, somebody who's very close to us, and he accompanied us to NIT Durgapur as well. I can't remember. I think he was there with us as well. And he's been with us, from the very beginning of when we started Technopreneur Surrogate Ventures, which is the incubator and co-working space for startups that I run in Calcutta. So Ravi's been a very integral part of it, and he's run a lot of the incubation cohorts and all that. And even now, when we bring about very interesting ventures, be it the Future-Proof Hackathon that we organized a few months ago. In fact, two of the winners, I think, were from NIT Durgapur. I think yes, I'm pretty sure actually. The one team was from TIU, and the two other teams were from NIT Durgapur. Which one was the robot?
NIT was non-institutional.
Yeah, non-institutional, but I think there was one. The team name was NIT. I think if I remember correctly, there was a couple of people from NIT as well. So even there, even at the hackathon, I believe there was a lot of new things that we try out, that we get to try out. There's a lot of privilege in that, and along with that, there's a lot of I think if you're looking at the bigger picture, there's a lot to be done. We still reside in a state where we still don't see as much entrepreneurship that we'd like to. When I started this journey in the end of 2016, early 2017, back then there still wasn't a very well-established ecosystem, a place where a young and aspiring entrepreneur could go and learn. They could go and meet mentors. They could go and meet investors. It was just not there as such. So it's a lot of like learning by doing, and then learning by failing, and then tweaking it a little bit, and then trying to get better at it. So yeah, we're far from done. A lot of patience, I guess. That's important to have. In general, I think if you're trying to do anything in West Bengal, you have to have a lot of patience, because it takes a lot of tries and retries, hit and trials to get it right. Yeah, and happy to talk again about anything else that you have in mind. Let us know.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, and your advices are very valuable. We already have several questions pouring in from our Facebook Live. First question is from Shreyan Datta. He's asking, do you think the term social entrepreneurship in some cases disarms consumers' minds, while the startup might still be targeting profit maximization to some extent?
I've always had reservations about the term social entrepreneurship. Actually, I am going to rephrase my own term and rather call it impact entrepreneurship. I think calling it social entrepreneurship isn't working so well to the service of the entrepreneur. First reason is because social is such an ambiguous term. Like sometimes when I ask students, so what do you think social entrepreneurship is about? They're like, entrepreneurship on social media. It could be defined in so many different ways, and therefore, because it's so ambiguous, I'd rather call it impact entrepreneurship. Another reason that I would say social entrepreneurship is not specifically something that should be used is that when you say social in the charity sense of it, there is this perception from yourself, from your investors, potentially from your customers as well, that you're working maybe towards a rather charitable model that might have a slight influence on how your customer perceives of your product or service, while social entrepreneurs should have also a business-oriented mind. The idea of, you know, keeping the entrepreneurship term into all this versus charity is because there are profits. It's because there is a financial sustainability, you know, behind that particular model. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. Otherwise, it would be an NGO kind of model. Having said so, I always try to explain, especially to students, that don't try to put tags on yourself. You know, it does not matter if you call yourself an entrepreneur or a social entrepreneur. I don't think actually customers would really think about the founder of this particular company that they are buying the products of and thinking, oh, is this a social entrepreneur? Is this an impact entrepreneur? Is this an entrepreneur or not? It's the product, it's the customer interface that will make your product or service more or less successful. So don't waste too much time trying to put tags on yourself. It's only potentially limiting. I don't know if you want to add something.
No, I think that's very well said. I think impact entrepreneurship is what we need to look at anyway. And I think the point about the customer, at the end of the day, I don't think they really care.
No.
And any organization needs to make money at the end of the day. Let's be real. And we've seen also that in a developing country, if most of the work that you're doing in some way or the other becomes a social entrepreneurial venture. I think whenever you're looking at impact, yes, if you're trying to alleviate poverty by creating a tech platform which is very much, profit focused, even then you still end up having enough impact if you're able to help people alleviate themselves from poverty.
The main difference with impact entrepreneurship is that typically they would use the impact that they create as a USP point, as a selling point, as a bonus to the perception of the customers, saying, if you buy this product, if you go with my service, then not only do you buy something for yourself, but also do you participate in a greater good socially or environmentally. So that can be quite powerful. But as Meghdut was saying, nowadays, especially considering all of the social and environmental challenges that we face in this particular century, we are already starting to see the boom and the advent of what we call the impact economy, where if you don't bring any social and environmental impact through your business, it will become very, very difficult for you to remain relevant and resilient in the future.
Especially in a post-COVID world, like you're looking at how all the existing business models are falling apart, and a lot of it is because it was so highly stacked up on top of each other in terms of just creating profit and more revenues and profit, and it wasn't doing enough good to the world. So you know what? Who came and became a gatekeeper for the whole thing? Mother Nature. She came and brought her wrath on us, and somehow we have to rethink everything again. So I guess in a way, it's good. It's refreshing. The social entrepreneurs and the impact entrepreneurs are the ones who are going to save us from this ordeal and help move us towards the post-COVID world.
Thank you for your answer. That was quite insightful. We have more questions from the audience. Sahil Jain asks, what was your motivation behind that has driven you to found Y East? And we would like to know about your experience.
I guess it's for you.
I mean, you can also add up to one. Okay, sure. So as I was saying, and I think it would be quite universal for any entrepreneur, you have to start with the observation of a problem. It doesn't make sense if you are trying to build value onto something that doesn't need added value. You know, I usually take this this example of this show called Shark Tank, and sometimes you have a lot of entrepreneurs that just pitch their ideas to entrepreneurs, and I just get completely amazed by the number of, I have to say, useless ideas to my perception that I see there. You know, like this guy was the other day was pitching wine for cats. I mean, you can do that, but I don't think it comes from a problem. You know, cats are probably very, very happy with their water and good food. And I don't think they particularly need wine.
Don't even think they need good food, really. They just eat whatever.
No. They do.
I mean, I guess
they're
it's
as
good.
alive as you are.
Anyway, I know. We have 6 cats at home, so it's
that's
like
another debate.
Yeah, so they will eat whatever. I don't think they really are looking for good food as a criteria for their quality.
I mean, it has to be yummy for them.
Yeah, I guess, but
so that they can get proper nutrition. But that's not the point. Point being, if there is no need that you're trying to tackle, that is to say, if there's no problem that you're trying to solve, then it is going to be very hard for you to find your customers, because if there's no need from the customer side, why would they buy, right? And so Waist started from a problem. Waist started from an observation that I had made when I moved to India, which was that NGOs, impact entrepreneurs, impact investors, education institutions, etc., focusing on sustainability, they usually were working in their own little corners. It were usually a lot of very, very small organizations that usually did not get to know each other and get to collaborate with each other very, very in an optimized manner. And so hence this idea of an aggregating platform. And another observation that I made there was, since I had moved to India, there was a lot of people who said, East and Northeast India, there's nothing really happening. For some reason, a lot of people talked about East and Northeast India down. And I felt, I'm circumstantially in Kolkata, and I know I'm going to be staying in Kolkata for a while. So let me try to do my best where I am. This is what it's all about. So hence also the Why East, which has a very specific focus, geographic focus on East and Northeast India. So there was the motivation. And of course, it also came from a long motivation and drive and passion that I have been entertaining for the past, I would say, 7 to 8 years about social and environmental impact. And I didn't see myself professionally anywhere else than, doing something very useful. So hence the creation of Waist. And just to answer the last part of the question, how has it been so far? I mean, it's a vast question, but it's been, how do you say, Waist on some criteria of entrepreneurship is far away from being still a success. It's still a very young company. We were registered as a Section 8 company a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago. But on some other criteria, in terms of impact, for example, we have been very happy with the kind of scope that we have managed to reach in just a few months. And so it brings me to that point that it's also important for you to also set your own criteria of success. If you start, are you only looking at maximization of profit? Are you only looking at the number of articles in the press that you will be in? Are you only looking at the number of people from the bottom line that you will have impacted positively? It's up to you completely to set your own success parameters. And I think it's been difficult, it's been challenging, but the challenging aspect of it is what makes your life so interesting and rich and moving forward. So yeah.
Thank you so much. We have another question from one of our viewers. His name is Abhishek Basu, and he asks, how can we, as college students, contribute towards sustainability development, and how can we create a social impact?
Sure. Thanks for the question. I think you don't have to be a college student, or you don't have to be a school student, or you don't have to particularly be anything to have social impact. I think it really, at the end of the day, the same way that I talk about entrepreneurship and the innovation mindset itself being something that's really built into who you are as a person. It's in the same way the sustainability mindset is also something that is very much built into a person. And very frankly speaking, I guess the reason why it's also interesting for me to answer this question more than Pauline, like Pauline's been somebody who was, I guess, more born into that mindset. She comes from a country where it's a lot more acceptable, where it's a lot more, there's a lot more dialogue around sustainability and sustainable development goals. But in growing up in India, especially in the kind of circumstances I was in a fairly middle class upbringing, I did not really come across sustainability as much when I was a kid. Neither when I was in school nor when I was in college, in the beginning of college. Never really went out for plantation drives or donated. I mean, other than some occasional charity here and there, I don't think I've ever been part of that mindset. And it's important to note here that the mindset is not about doing charity. It's also just about closing your tap when you're brushing your teeth, or not keeping your lights on in the room, or just like thinking about Earth not just as a place where we live, but also as part of us. Like as we are as much a part of the Earth as the Earth is a part of ourselves. So it's sort of an extension of who we are, and everything that we do, which could have a negative impact on it, be it in the other citizens of the world, be it social on the social side or in the environmental side. Every time we cut down a forest to make a dam, or whatever it is that we do for maximization of profit, which in most cases happens quite unfairly, we are reducing our overall time on the planet. So for that, it doesn't really matter if you're a school student or college student or a housewife or somebody involved in professional activities. You can do that at home. It's just about being a bit more mindful. You don't have to go out and donate 1/3 of your income to somebody, or you don't have to go out and read 10 books or write a thesis. It's about being mindful of everyday activities. That's how you start being socially impactful, more environmentally impactful.
And just to add to that, completely agree that it also, sustainability is not only a professional journey potentially, but also a personal journey where you have to question, your habits as a consumer, your habits as a citizen, your habits as a family member. As I usually say to the students, sustainability usually is perceived as only related to environment, but it's both on the social and environmental side. If you look at the 17 SDGs framework, it goes from no poverty to climate action to gender equality to life on land and life below water. So it's as Meghdoot said, it's really this mindset that you need to entertain on a daily basis of being a bit more caring about the fact that you're not on your own on the planet, that all of your behaviors, and especially as a future leader, if you're going to lead some teams in the future, all of your behaviors, all of your decisions matter for all of your surroundings. You're not, you're not completely neutral to your environment and to society. So to make a difference on your campus, I would say just start talking about it. Organize a specific conference on sustainability, maybe to talk about it. Last element. It is so transverse. It is a discipline that is so transverse. So I suggest that you talk to your teachers as well. And let's say you're studying civil engineering. There's a lot of sustainability issues related to civil engineering. There's a lot of sustainability issues related to mechanical engineering. There's a lot of sustainability focuses that you can find out about architecture, etc., etc. Every department should shift to a more sustainable mindset.
And honestly, whoever asked the question, even dealing with some very simple things like mental health, I think is a huge move towards sustainability.
SDG number 3, yeah. Health and well-being.
Health and well-being. And if we are talking about the current circumstance that we're in, we've all been stuck at our homes for such a long time, and the morale is low wherever we look at. Even if you're organizing a program like this where you're talking to, getting other people to talk and inspire people, that is, you are potentially part of the sustainability network. If you organize a little show where a bunch of people come and play some music in which the overall mental state of the audience gets improved, you are being more impactful. So it's really not about just things which are green, things which are social, things which are environmental. It's about our everyday actions and how we hope to serve the society around us.
Exactly.
You can do that sitting at home, even playing your guitar for 5 people who are happier at the end of your session. That, my friend, is also something that makes you more sustainable, because you're helping with the overall.
You're mindful about some other elements beyond yourself. That's what it means, really.
Thank you so much for your guidance. We are running short on time, but we have several questions pouring in, so I'll quickly go through most of them. Sukanya Datta asks, after completing your studies, how did you manage and plan for SDG? How has Kolkata been helpful as an epicenter of the growing importance towards sustainability? This question is for you, Pauline.
Yeah, I try to make it quick if we're running out of time. I have been lucky to be associated to Techno India Group in the education sector, and I really started the fight for SDGs by really talking it out as much as I could to the students. During the induction programs for each first year batches coming in, I would sit down with them, I would take them through the particular framework of the SDGs. I would try and organize as many extracurricular and curricular activities related to the Sustainable Development Goals.
Not just to college students, for school students as well.
Schools as well, yeah.
World's largest lesson, and to 3,000 students from schools of Techno India being impacted through a bunch of seminars. So.
And to answer the other part of the question, Calcutta, what is great about sustainability, what is great about sustainable development is that you will always be supported. It's one thing that is magic about this sector is it's very rare. I don't think it's actually possible that you face any resistance or any reluctance from people saying, oh, no, this is not good what you're doing. You're doing the good, literally, right? So I have been amazed by the amount of support that I have gotten from Kolkata, from India. And I'm sure wherever I would have been in the world, it would have been also, easy to receive support because you're going in the right direction, and this is not something very questionable in this particular sector. Now, having said so, of course, Calcutta for sustainable development is a tough city. It's an unorganized city. It hasn't been planning for sustainable development goals for a very long time. So there's a lot of work to do. But the support
which also means that there's more opportunity, right? You've built policies for governments, for state governments, for national governments, for various educational departments. And I think that's also beautiful when you look at it from the perspective of an entrepreneur versus somebody who is trying to do charity, because an entrepreneur will always find a way of finding an opportunity in any threat. So the fact that Pauline, when she came here, was still quite a fish outside of water, but then used her strengths to build something which was valuable, and now working with so many different social and environmental organizations. I think it's been an interesting ride for you.
Very thankful to India for the support. So.
Thank you so much. Our next question is from Kiran Karar. He asks, can you please share your story behind your first venture, BlooperHouse Studios? And lastly, he also has a request. Will request Aro Akbar Cholo Fire Jai. He says he's a big fan of your performances.
Okay. We haven't practiced that one in a while.
Probably not. But, so my first venture, BlooperHouse, actually was interesting because I didn't think it would be a venture. At that time, I didn't even think that I would create something in the entertainment space, especially because I was never a very good musician myself. And most of the music that I've picked up was because I was hanging out at the studio and producing bands. And the only good thing about it was, because I'm a Bengali, and I grew up in a very Bengali household. Every Bengali, we are born with like a certain understanding of music and the arts and culture. So from a very young age, I guess I knew what good music was, what good art was in general. And more importantly, because I'm also the son of an entrepreneur, of two entrepreneurs, in fact, so I also knew what sells. So I basically put the two things together. I knew what kind of music would sell. Hence the journey with BlooperHouse, and it's been almost 10 years now that we started BlooperHouse, and it's been phenomenal. Like, we've supported more than 2,500, 3,000 bands and artists from across the world, produced so many albums, live shows. Even now, every single day, even just when the unlock happened, bands had been like calling us and raring to go back to the studio. And so we're like, okay, you know what? We'll maintain social distancing, but we can't keep people away from BlooperHouse. It's not going to happen. So even though it's not something that takes a lot of my time anymore, because it's very well settled and it's a self-sustainable business, doesn't make me any money, but it gives me a lot of joy going to sleep at the end of the day that, you know what, even if nothing else, we've been able to support a lot of independent musicians in Calcutta and across the state of West Bengal. And that, in fact, became a huge funnel for me to start my other venture, which is Top Cat, which is Kolkata's only live music venue meant for independent and original music. And it's been a year and a half with Top Cat as well, and we've had more than 200 shows, and it's something that we've done all the time. Now, unfortunately, we can't do shows anymore, so we started something called the Top Cat Streamlabs, and it started from yesterday. Yesterday, on the occasion of World Music Day, we did a concert with Paloma and Adil, and it was fantastic, and we streamed it live, and it was a ticketed show. So, you know, I think being an entrepreneur, that's something that's, and being an entrepreneur who's interested in the arts and entertainment sector, I think has given me the reason to keep myself alive. I think it's a very selfish thing I do with this. It helps me keep alive. At the end of the day,
you wouldn't be able to maintain it alive as well if you didn't have this passion.
If I didn't have the passion. So I guess it's a chicken and egg thing. So yeah, for this song, I guess you can listen to it online. I'm sure a lot of you have already probably heard it somewhere, and we keep doing these things. But if you must know, we're not really musicians, you know. Like it's
meant to be completely amateur and remain so.
Yeah, these are mobile recordings of stuff we've done at home because of the fact that I love Fossils. I grew up with Fossils. The first song that we did together was Fossils, and it didn't happen overnight. I mean, I've been making Pauline listen to Fossils for 5 years now. So it just happened that someday, because the lockdown was on, we're like, you know, you want to like just do some song, you know, learn a Bengali song. We're like, yeah, why not? Let's do Fossils. That's how Aro Ekbar happened. But
great song.
Great song, yeah. And since then it became a thing. You know, every other week, I guess we put up a video, and we've received so much love for it. So it feels good as well. It will always be a passion. We'll never be professional musicians, but it's something that we enjoy. It helps us, you know, it helps with our own mental health. And going by the comments, I guess it also helps with other people's mental health because they feel maybe a bit more alive and a bit more rejuvenated after it. So you'll have to listen to it online for now. And next time NIT Durgapur calls us for its cultural fest, we'll play this song.
We'll get ready. For you. We'll get prepared.
Thank you so much, sir. Our last question is from Sahil Jain. He asks, how was your journey from being a college student to being a director of Techno India Group, and how did you achieve it?
Who is it for? For me, I guess?
Go ahead.
I think it's just a general question. He didn't specify. So I guess it's for anybody's call.
Yeah. So I was born into it. It's for Techno India is the only venture where I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm an intrapreneur. So Techno India was actually founded by my father 35 years ago. And he is maybe one of the most inspiring entrepreneurs there are in India, Professor Meghdoot RoyChowdhury. I don't know if you've heard of him. I actually don't know if you'll ever hear of him because he's not a very public person, but he single-handedly created Techno India Group. And if we have a couple of minutes, I'll share his story because I think it's quite fascinating. So Dr. RoyChowdhury was my father. It's actually Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all amazing fathers out there.
To all the fathers connected, do you think there's a lot of fathers connected?
Know if you're watching and your father's not connected, take this opportunity to wish them happy Father's Day.
Don't forget.
I wished him this morning. He's not only my boss for something, but he's also like a total boss at life. And you know, he's the son of a postman in Bangladesh, grew up with absolutely nothing, five kids in the family, moved to India in '71 during the communal riots, and taught himself and all his brothers and sisters through school, started teaching kids in his garage in Hooghly, and then started a computer training center, and then at some point scaled to 150 computer training centers across the country. Started his first college in '98, which was Netaji Subhash Engineering College, and then Techno India, the brand name was coined in the year 2000. That was 20 years ago, and I happen to be his son. And I guess another very interesting thing to talk about here, I guess, is also nepotism, because there's been a lot of talk about nepotism in the market. I hope of course, because I'm the son of the founder chairman of the group. I guess it's something that would have happened anyway, but something very interesting that all of you might want to know as well, it might be interesting, is I never got anything from my father other than my education. Let's be very honest about that. I actually studied in Techno India in the Techno India main Salt Lake College as well. But I've never, in my life, I've never stood second in class in anything. I wanted to go to the US to study, but which did not happen because I messed up my 12th exam. Irrespective of that, my marks were way more than what was required. But I got
what you get from your work.
I guess what I get from my work, yeah, man. Because I guess I was born to fairly smart parents, I guess I got some of the genes, and I was never bad at school. So when I didn't get into my dream school, which was Stanford, at least for my bachelor's, I said, you know what, I'm gonna be in Kolkata, and I might as well get a feeling of the group that I will probably run one day. And so I studied at Techno India. I had a great score as well. I passed out with 9.4, 9.5 GPA. But because school was never hard for me, it was not because, irrespective of whether I was at Techno India or anywhere else. But I took all of that as an opportunity. The fact that I was at a college where while everyone was having a great time, my father had clearly mentioned that if my son misses any class and if he's caught bunking, then you report it to me. And for everyone else, just be aware. For all the 5,000 other students, the teachers had to actually call their parents. For me, they had to just dial 3 numbers on their extension board, and they could reach out to my father. So it was not easy. I had a tough shoes to fill. But after that, when I was in second year itself, I figured out that even apart from my education in computer science, I wanted to do something with entrepreneurship. That's when I started BlooperHouse. Then I figured I wanted to study management and business. That's when I went. I applied to the top business schools. I got into HEC Paris, which has been the top business school in Europe for 100 years now, I guess. That's also where I met Pauline, and after that I ended up going to Stanford, which had been a long-standing dream for me. And then in 2017 when I came back, because I've always wanted to come back. Kolkata is a city that has molded me, which has created this person that I am today. And for me, I always knew I was going to come back. I always knew I wanted to come back and serve my city. And the obvious thing to do was, and even my father was like, you're coming back to work with me because we need the new leadership. And it was not a leadership built on the fact that I was his son, but it was also the fact that I guess I worked my way for it.
If I can add here, and I think you would say it very well too, to make that story maybe a bit more relatable, I would say that you might be born with some amount of privilege, or you might cross the road with another person or a few people that will take you to some other places. It's called networking, or it's called privilege at birth. It's great for you if you face this. Take it for yourself. I think what Meghdoot was saying is that he was born with privilege in the same way you have kids that are born without so much privilege. He did not choose where he was born either. And the point of that is, what do I do with my privilege? Do I play complacent, or do I do my best to be my best version, and therefore to help back and to create back as much as I can? So embrace the connections that you will gather on the way. Use these connections to get where you want to get. But once you're where you want to get, be responsible and be up to the position that you've reached. Because otherwise, if you reach that far and you're not up to that mark, you will very, very easily and very, very quickly feel that this is not where you belong. People will tell you, you will feel it around.
People make it very obvious. I think also filling up the shoes of somebody who's basically redefined education in the east of India is not easy. Coming from absolutely nothing to going out and building more than 100 campuses with currently 70,000 plus students.
You better perform.
I have to perform. And I mean, till now, he's a very hard taskmaster. Normally for all the other entrepreneurship ventures I have, I don't really have bosses. But in general, I think my father is really my boss. And there's somebody that I look up to immensely. And, at this age, he's 65 now. And to this day, the way that he runs things, there's so much to learn. I'm even more privileged, I think, about the fact that I grew up in this family which cared so much about education to make a huge difference, to care so much about the society around, that we've been able to change so many families, other than the fact that I was born into the family which created Techno India. So that no matter what I do in the future, hopefully I'll always have a tie with Techno India in some way or the other, and I'll hopefully keep doing something for my beloved city of Calcutta. That's where my heart is, and that's where my passions lie. So yeah, you got to make the most of your privilege and keep sharing that privilege with everyone else. I mean,
that's very important.
I think that's very important, and for all those who are more underserved or more underprivileged to be together now. Now it's just not me, myself, but the two of us. We make it our constant fight every single day. We try to be a better version of ourselves and to learn from our mistakes and be better people to help those who need it more than us. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. That was a great message. It was wonderful to have you both over here. You made this virtual e-summit a grand success. So EMEDC is very grateful to you for that. So best of luck with Y-East. Best of luck with any other projects that might come up. And this was a wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a lovely moderator,
yes.
Abha. You
were super
very involved, super involved.
I feel now that we've created a special relationship with an IT developer. So it'll be a pleasure to always come back and help out as much as we can.
Except if you're calling next year, do not ask us what your journey was, because you've heard that too many times. Let's do something different next year.
Next year we'll call you for our cultural session. Thank you so much. We hope to stay in touch.
Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.